I heard this song on the radio in Uber. It's really bad, but it's pretty popular. 8 weeks on the charts, peak 17. This chart says dance slash electronic, which doesn't seem like what this song is to me. So that's confusing. I'm not quite sure how the charts work. All the songs on the radio were really bad. There's a lot of scope for analysis there. People already know they're bad. Well, some people do. But they listen anyways. And I think they don't thoroughly enough know how bad the songs are. I think it's like the people who read the New York Times and they say, well, I know it's biased, so I take into account the bias. I'm not fooled because I know that. But then they are fooled because they don't know the full extent of the bias or everything that's wrong. They know some of the biases. So they're not fooled by 3 different biases that they noticed, but then they're fooled by 8 other biases. So I think the songs are like that too. People know some bad things about them. They're not fooled by everything about the song, but then they're fooled by some of the other parts. So there are a lot of bad songs. There's a lot of scope to analyze them. I think they're important because they're popular. Like this one has over 2 million views in a few months. There are other songs with hundreds of millions of views. They're a part of people's lives. People like them. If songs with more rational lyrics would get as many views, some of those would get made. So I'm going to do a bit of analysis for this song. It's called Bones by Galantis featuring One Republic. You bring an energy I've never felt before. Some kind of chemical that reaches through my core. Feels like as far as you and me. So I think the comments on energy and chemical are both interesting because those are science terms. So why are they putting science in a popular song? People don't know science. People don't like science. Neither word is used correctly. People are impressed by science, and they know science has this energy thing, and that energy is important and impressive because it powers their lights. And they might even know it powers their cars, or they might just confuse energy with electricity and think that gas cars aren't powered by energy, even though it's called the energy industry. But anyways, even if you limit it to electricity, people have some idea of some of the things that does. And even if you ignore batteries like an iPhone, there's still a lot of very important stuff. So people are impressed by it. They don't understand it very well though, which is why the song can talk about energy and it doesn't mean energy. Energy does have other meanings. So people talk about feeling energetic and the energy in the room, but I don't think it's an accident that they're using a science term. I think there's something wrong there. Because you see the same thing with chemical. They're talking about chemicals because they think chemicals are powerful. Because science said they're powerful. But these are the same people who know nothing about chemicals and they're scared of chemicals. They're not aware that water is a chemical, that air is a chemical, like oxygen or CO2, those are chemicals. You're made out of chemicals, your computer's made out of chemicals, your desk is made out of chemicals, your clothes are made out of chemicals, the earth is made out of chemicals, dirt is a chemical, or a mix of chemicals, rock, chemical, metal, chemical. But they don't use the word chemical that way. They mean the bad, scary ones or something. But they never define very carefully which those are or why those are bad or scary. Sometimes they do make accusations against specific chemicals that are generally very shoddy and not researched. Anyways, so does she bring the strength and vitality required for sustained physical or mental activity? Example sentence, changes in the levels of vitamins can affect energy and well-being. No, this is like a physical health thing. She's not doing that. A person's physical and mental powers. No, it's not that. Like, she's not actually making him energetic. Power derived from the utilization of physical or chemical resources, especially to provide light and heat or to work machines. Right, she doesn't do that. Physics, the property of matter and radiation, which is manifest as a capacity to perform work, such as causing motion or the interaction of molecules. A collision in which no energy is transferred. Right, she doesn't do that. A degree or level of energy possessed by something or required by a process. Gamma rays at different energies. Right, she doesn't do that. Where does this word come from? Denoting force or vigor of expression, from French energy, or via late Latin from Greek energia, from in within, ergon, work. So something that does work. So they're not using the right word. They're using it in a very metaphorical way, similar to the chemicals thing. This is an older dictionary. Internal or inherent power. So if you bring an energy, see, he's feeling the energy, like she's bringing an energy to him, so it's not internal or inherent power, because then it would stay within her. But it's more like he means that she's giving energy to him, or he feels energy when she's there, which is not internal or inherent to him. Like the energy he feels that he's attributing to her is not his own energy, and it doesn't fit the meaning. Power efficiently and forcibly exerted, vigorous or effectual operation, is in the energy of a magistrate. Right, she's not doing that. Like, they don't mean she's a hard worker. She's not, like, accomplishing a lot. She brings a vibe. They mean vibe, and they say energy, and it's not the same thing. People think this kind of point is picky, but how you think about the world affects your choices in life. It affects your decision making. It affects your other thoughts. Like, this is not an isolated joke that has no impact on any of your other thinking. The way you conceive of energy affects how you conceive of energy in other contexts. Even if it was isolated, that would be bad. You don't want to learn like 7 different meanings of each word that are all just isolated and have nothing to do with each other and just memorize them all. That would be very like rote learning, and it'd be full of special exceptions that are hard to deal with. The reason like language and thinking makes sense to you is because it's not all special exceptions. Things fit together. So she brings energy of some sort. He's never felt it before. That's a lie. Probably. Because, like, the typical person dates, what, like 10 girls during their life? I don't know. But, say it's 10 girls, then the chance that she brings energy he's never felt before is around 10%. And I mean, like, dates 10 girls where it, like, goes okay and gets somewhere. I mean, they're always saying, like, this one's the best one, but then they say that about the next one, too. So it's not honest. And it's a perspective that encourages people to be infatuated with the next girl that they're into, which harms their chances with the girl. Girls don't like it when you're infatuated, because that comes off as needy and desperate and low status, and like you don't have abundance of other girls. Girls want to be with the guy who could get a different girl. So when you say you've never felt it before, you're putting her on a pedestal. You're saying she's special. And if you do that, you're sabotaging yourself with the girl. You're probably going to lose her because you said that and thought of it that way. Like, it's a very beta sentiment as opposed to an alpha sentiment. And, like, how far into the relationship are we? This is the kind of thing people usually say early on. If you're going to do this kind of thing, it needs to be, like, small doses after a long time, after she's earned it. Like, it would make more sense to say that to your wife, like 5 years into the relationship, than to say it to the new girl. Because you're saying, like, at that point that you have something special with her. And she already knows you're invested in her. But anyways, the thing he's singing is that she transforms him. So without her, he's worse. Without her, he lacks energy. Without her, he doesn't have chemical transformation through the core. So he's talking about like how helpless he is. And that's not what girls look for. They want a guy who's together. They want a guy who is confident, powerful, effective in life, who already has a life, and then they can add into the life and supplement it, augment it, make it better and cooler, and join in. But the guy should already be taking the lead and doing things that don't rely on her, that he can succeed with or without her. Not he needs her to fuel him. The other thing I want to talk about at the beginning is the picture. So, like, they want her to be attractive to a lot of viewers. So the picture is carefully chosen. Like, she's white, but not too white. Because there's people who don't like really white people now. That's, like, out of style a bit. There's, like, anti-white backlash. But if she's just, like, not white, then a lot of people wouldn't be attracted to her. So they have to make her, like, sort of white. Like, they've got her, like, pretty tanned, and there's, like, a little bit of an Asian look. And you don't see, like, a lot of bright white skin. She looks like a little bit mixed race. The other thing is she's girl next door type. Like, she doesn't look slutty. She's not supposed to look like she's wearing makeup. She is. Like, there's some blush on her cheek, I think. And just in general, like, you don't see pores, you don't see acne. Her skin looks very smooth. That's partly because the image is a little blurry. Like, you can see on her hand that the image is, like, intentionally blurry. But it's also because she's definitely wearing makeup. Unless they just Photoshop the hell out of it, which can have the same effect. It's probably both, though. Makeup and Photoshop is the best way to do it. And you can see, like, her eyebrows are manicured, like they're in the right shape. Like, how straight a line they make, that's not a random natural occurrence. So anyways, she's supposed to look like she's not really trying. She's supposed to look like the girl next door. But she is trying. So it's not honest. But that's what people like. They're all like, I don't like makeup, by which they mean they don't like makeup that's really blatant and they notice it a lot. By the way, her lips have makeup on them too. People wear like tinted lip glosses though and pretend that's not makeup. Or tinted like chapsticks or something. Even non-tinted ones. You can have like a non-tinted chapstick that just makes your lips like shinier. And that calling that like not makeup, I'm not wearing any makeup, is like not fair because it's not your natural look. So they put quite a bit of effort into the photo. And they're pretending they didn't. Like, the photo's supposed to look casual. There's like a reflection in the window. Over here, like it's supposed to not look staged. Her neck looks sort of like weird and fuzzy. It's hard to tell even if you're supposed to be seeing her through the window or seeing her reflection in the window. But, like, the weirdness is supposed to make it look less posed. But they're careful about, like, the background and limiting what's in the photo. And, like, it's very intentional. Like, her face is in the middle. It's not just someone saw something and, like, pointed a camera and clicked the button. This is posed and staged. And, like, look at the slat. This slat right here goes between her eyes. That's not an accident either. Like, if one of her eyes was blocked, they would have used a different picture. Like, they actually lined it up so that the slats, like, don't block the important parts. Like, they're careful about what part of her face is obscured so it doesn't ruin the picture. Like, they got it to be on less important parts. And the way her hair is, she has, like, a stray hair, like, here, and then she has, like, several over here. That's, like, they put those hairs there on purpose. They, like, arrange them like this. Like, this one's actually going over her eyes a bit. Like, that's annoying. Like, you brush that shit back. They did that for the photo. Like, look where her, like, pupil is, and the hair, like, goes that far. She has hair, like, basically right in front of her vision. Like, she'd be seeing that, you know? So it's not, like, a natural look. So anyways, the photo's extremely fake because it's pretending it's not fake. Photos in general, like, they're fake, and it's okay that photos are staged and done on purpose, and most photos are not just like taken at random. They put some work into it, and that's okay. But this one I think is especially fake because they want you to think less work went into it than actually did. Like, they're trying to give an impression that it's a low effort photo when it's a high effort photo. And they're trying to give an impression that, like, you can date a girl that looks like that. Like, they're trying to get one that's, like, not too out of your league. And that's not honest either in general. Like, they're trying to, at the same time, like, they know people will think that she looks really good and like her, but they're also at the same time trying to pretend that she's, like, not that elite. So that's contradictory and not honest. But then also, girls don't look like this. This is makeup and airbrushing and stuff. Like, even models don't look like this without their makeup if you meet them in person, and actresses and whatever. So this is, like, it's such a fantasy, it's not real. Like, no one lives up to this. And then on top of that, it's a posed angle, catching her in a good light. So it looks better than just if you're, like, walking around with someone, or you go on a date or whatever, and you just see them from many different angles at many different times in many different lightings. In general, it's going to look a lot worse than this. So they have this girl that is impressive, and then she brings an energy he's never felt before. So he's, like, super impressed by her. So they're teaching people to want unrealistically hot girls. Well, hot's not quite the right word, like cute or pretty, who put a lot of work into their appearance, but also put a lot of work into not being too overtly sexual because no one likes a slut. And so that's fake as well. And then they're setting you up to be, like, really into her, which is going to turn her off. She doesn't want that. She wants someone who's not overly impressed by her. So they're teaching you how to not be able to date her, even if you could find her, which you can't. So they're setting you up to be unhappy, to have expectations about life that are grossly unrealistic. And then you see in the culture, millions of guys are unhappy. They have trouble finding a girl they want to date. They have problems in this exact area of what the pop song taught them. Like it's actually happening on a huge scale. And then girls on the other side are, like, super pressured to do their best to look like this, or various other very manicured appearances that also at the same time pretend not to be manicured. So it sucks for everyone that there's this impossible standard, and girls try to be it and guys want it, and no one wins. And that's, like, sort of well known, but it's also, people do it anyways. Like, they don't quite get it thoroughly enough. They don't recognize it well enough. Like, they know in concept that that's a bad thing that goes on, but they wouldn't, like, as a first impression when they see this picture, they would not think makeup, airbrushing, unrealistically beautiful. That they associate that with other looks that have, like, a darker shade of red on the lipstick and some other things, like more mascara or something. And they don't look closely. It's all just impressions. And I'm not even good at analyzing, like, what people look like. Like, that is not at all my specialty. I just know, like, a little bit about it. And if you actually try, you can do some analysis and figure some shit out. But, like, if this is like a bigger deal for you, if you want to know more about it, you go on YouTube and you look for, like, makeup tutorials, and you can look at, like, before and afters and how much work people put into it and what they put the work into. And you can disillusion yourself. You can see behind the curtains and whatever. I'm gonna get a photo. Okay. So the top left one. This is what guys don't want. Unless they want, like, a slut. Like, someone who's signaling that they're a whore and gonna be, like, easy. Because it's very overtly sexual to just put on that much makeup. It's blatantly trying too hard. So it signals that they're easy, that they're low status, and that they're, like, looking for to attract men and to be sexual. So that people can like it for that reason, but in general they don't like it. They don't want to marry someone like that or even date them for very long. But people don't usually wear makeup like that. So this one is actually heavy makeup. But most people would not be like alienated by this picture. Like this picture looks fine to them. Some people wouldn't even realize she's wearing makeup, I think. So when guys say they don't like makeup, they mean this one in the top left. Lots of people who, quote, don't like makeup would like the top right one just fine. Then the bottom left one is trying to look like no makeup. So like there's a lot less black stuff around the eyes to emphasize the eyes, and the lips are less red. Those are two of the main things, and also the eyebrows are less dark. So those are 3 types of makeup that are in this one that you could notice. But I think not everyone does, but certainly plenty of people would notice that. But then this one, people think this is no makeup, even though this is makeup. So here's actual no makeup, and you can see how different it is. Like her skin tone's different. She has blemishes. Her skin is not actually totally smooth. She has blemishes. Most people do. Her eyebrows look quite different again. Like they're weaker. Anyways, so people like know something about this, but they don't internalize it. They don't like practice it until they can actually react appropriately and see this face and think makeup. That's makeup. They don't work on it. Like they want to be fooled, or they just make it easy to fool them. They don't get to the point that this triggers like a makeup and model reaction. Instead, they see girl next door, no makeup, somehow. But you can fix that. Like, just go watch like 50 YouTube videos and get it fucking pounded into you until you like get the picture. And then you have to not just do that. You have to also practice it, like when you see girls in person, to like look for makeup, like actively go through a checklist and be like, is her skin smoother and has like no pores? Smoother than realistic, no pores, that means makeup. So this is another one. This is a model. And she said she was confused at first because when people said no makeup, she thought they meant no makeup, literally, which is the left picture. But what they wanted was the right picture, which is makeup that's designed to be subtle. Because you're not supposed to try too hard, so you should look like you didn't put effort into makeup. You just, you just woke up and threw something on, and you looked like that. That's what people want. They want like unrealistic beauty with unrealistic lack of effort going into it. So some of the giveaways that there's makeup here are that her skin is too smooth and just lack of blemishes and lack of just like any sort of like discolorations or freckles or anything. You bring an energy I've never felt before. Some kind of chemical that reaches through my core, feels like before. So it reaches through his core. That's a notable word as well. Also that it reaches, like energy reaches. Or chemical reaches, like it's doing it in terms of like location, which is what the song's about. Like he's going to talk about feeling shit in his bones instead of his heart, which are both locations. So and here he says core. Now, the word core has multiple meanings, and I think that's on purpose, because it sounds like it reaches through his core, like physically, like the core of his body. But people also talk about like their core values, and the word core can sort of mean like soul or what's central to him. the heart or inner part of a thing, right? So it can mean that in like a fairly literal way, the literal inner part of him. But it can also mean it in more of a figurative way, like the figurative inner part of him. So, right, people find this kind of analysis too picky. And it's too wordy, it's too long. It's not going to fit into their life. Their life is faster paced than this. But what you need to do is you need to get to the point where you can analyze it yourself. And you need to be able to start with to be able to analyze it slowly. And then you speed up. If you do 10 analyses like this, and you go very slowly and you figure out all the details, then you can do your second 10 like a lot faster. And then you can do some more that are like way faster. You can get to the point where you can be noticing stuff in real time. I'm slowing it down for educational purposes, to try to explain things, to show you like a lot of details. But I heard part of the song on the radio while doing something else, and I thought it was really bad, and I noticed in real time, with no pauses, no rewinds. So that's the end goal, is to be able to react appropriately in real time in your life. But to get there, you need to get it right first. Correctness comes first, and speed comes second. Oh, I just hit a number key and it like skipped forward. It's like 1, 2, 3 are like 10%, 20%, 30%. It's YouTube hotkeys. Anyway. Yeah, first, correctness. You have to actually be able to do the analysis at all. Being able to just figure out what's going on with the song in a lot of detail, not missing too much, is where you start. And you have to practice that a bit, and then you get faster and better. And once you get good at it, once things start to feel repetitive and boring, that's when you can go faster, because it's already getting easy enough for you. So if it's easy for you to do, to analyze in an hour, then maybe you could analyze it correctly in half an hour. And then once that's easy, maybe you could analyze it correctly in 10 minutes. And then once that's easy, maybe 5 minutes. And once that's easy, maybe 3.5 minutes, the actual length of the song. So that you can just analyze it as the song plays. Although, 3.5 minutes of pause time to analyze is different than doing it like while the song goes. Being able to actually keep up with the song as opposed to just having small pauses, like, you hear a lyric, then you pause and you say something, like immediately. Like that's good and fast if you can listen to one sentence, pause it, and immediately comment on the sentence. Like consciously think and even say out loud what you think about the sentence. That's good. But that's not actually real time. Real time is that you hear the sentence and you do not pause, and you react while the sentence is being said, and you're done figuring out what you think of it and what's wrong with it by the time the next sentence is being said. Like you actually keep up with no pauses, which is much harder. Feels like some kind of chemical that reaches through my core. Feels like as far as you and me, I've never had a choice. You feel like home. Okay, so as far as you and me is wordy. The whole thing has like unnecessary words. It's interesting because they cut out words. It's trying to be like brief and poetic and stuff, but they're also using words that are not needed. Like as far as you and me is like a long way to talk about the relationship. He doesn't want to directly say like we're talking about a romance. So he's intentionally omitting saying what he means. Like there's something and it has to do with you and me. And you just say as far as and people guess what you mean. Because like what else would it mean? We hear a male voice and we see a female picture. And I mean, they play this on the radio. You don't even need the female picture. You know he's talking about a girl. Like, if this is on the radio, you bring in energy. It's a girl. He's talking about a girl. Unless he's gay. Because they're just... That's what's important to people in life, and that's what songs are about. So you can just like guess what the song means without being told. Like, it's so repetitive. Certain messages are so infused in our culture, they're everywhere. Anyway, so he says he's never had a choice. Why does he feel like he's never had a choice? Because every fucking song he ever listened to told him this is how life is. That's what his parents told him. That's what all the movies told him. That's what all the Disney princess stories told him. And so on and so forth. And it's what all his friends do. No one in his life does anything different. So this song is contributing to the lack of choice. Like, it's saying he felt like he never had a choice, but this song is causing other people to feel like they never had a choice. That's not why he says it, though. The reason he says he never had a choice is to deny responsibility. He's trying to say it isn't a choice, that it's something that happens to you, and when you feel it, and when you don't feel it, you don't feel it, and you have no control over it, and that it's basically fate and destiny and karma and whatever. And he doesn't say it quite that blatantly, but that's what it means. You know, it's not something you control, it's not something you choose, it's not something where you use rational thinking to make decisions. It doesn't involve skill, it doesn't involve like planning and organization. He's trying to throw all those things out the window and make it all about emotions and about whims and about arbitrary, subjective intuition that can't be criticized, that can't be wrong. It just is what it is, and you accept it. And he's trying to worship that and elevate that above reason and using your mind. And this is why people have problems and they're unhappy, is because they didn't use their mind to make rational decisions, and so then their life doesn't work. And the thing the song is selling doesn't work well. It hurts people. It leads to divorces. It leads to suffering. It leads to loneliness. It leads to being dissatisfied with people because you want a fake dream that you're never going to have, and then you don't like what you do have because it doesn't match the fantasy. Like, it's bad to settle and have low standards, but it's also bad to have, like, stupid standards that don't make any sense, that you're never going to work. Anyway, so he says it feels like this. So he doesn't say it is this. He doesn't say he thinks it's this way. He says it feels this way. And then we got feel again. Like, he's using the word over and over. Here, felt. So felt, feels, feel. It's repetitive. So what does she feel like? Home. Why? Because it's a good thing. Like, they use things that don't make literal sense. She doesn't feel like home. Like, what is a home like? It has, like, windows, and it has a bed, and it has a kitchen, and maybe a desk. We've got a bathroom. And when you're at home, you're not putting on a show for everyone. If you live alone. But most people don't live alone, so they're dealing with their family. The show they put on for their family is different than the one they put on for the world, because you can't be on your best behavior and have your makeup on 24/7. That would just be like your life if you did. So there's some things that are just their life, but there's other things that it's like they can put on that show in public for most people, but they don't put it on 24/7. Those are like the medium things. Like, there's some things they only do on special occasions, like the really strong, high effort show that they'll do like once a month or whatever. They'll do it on holidays. They'll do it when they go to a concert, or like a really fancy restaurant or a party. And then there's like the things they'll do like when they go to work. So that's the show they put on for their coworkers, but they're not going to put it on 24/7. And then there's like the show they put on for their friends, which is something that's less energy, less effort. Then they're not doing it as often. Like just on weekends when they go out to the bar or something. And like maybe when they go hiking. So they don't have to keep up the show as much. Oh, I reversed those, didn't I? Because you see your coworkers more than your friends. But people are more comfortable with their friends, so it can go either way. Like, sometimes they'll be like putting on more of a show for their friends, but sometimes more for coworkers. It partly depends where they are in their life. Like, younger people are more like social climby with their friends. Then older people sometimes are more like social climby in the workplace and like relaxing with their friends and not trying to impress each other as much anymore. Anyway. And then when you get to like what you do around your family, it has to be like more minimal because you're around your family too much to put on like a big show all the time. Anyway, so she feels like home. Part of what that means, because it's not very literal. See, they just take like words like home, energy, chemical, and core, and they just use them based on like vague associations with the word. So people associate home with like good things. They're like, home is good, so that's why they say home. It's like one of the best things. Like people like their home in general. Like you're not at work when you're at home, so that's good. And it's where you're under less pressure to put on a show for people. There's fewer people there. So they wouldn't really admit that they like, that they hate people, that being around people is draining and so on. Sometimes they'll admit that. But some people claim they're like energized by being around people. But then those people who claim they're energized by being around people, they still like home. They associate home positively. They just don't want to be at home all the time. So part of what he's saying is he doesn't have to try around her. Like she feels like home, like he's comfortable. So it's like the girl next door vibe. Which is not honest. Like, you just met this girl, she looks like this. Most people are going to be trying pretty hard and not very comfortable. When people are at like the stage in the relationship where they're like, oh my god, energy. I've never felt this before. They're like trying really hard. They don't want to screw it up. So it doesn't feel like home. It's not comfy. It's not familiar. See, like home is something like familiar and normal, but an energy I've never felt before, a chemical that reaches through my core. That's not homey. That's not comfortable. It's not familiar. It's not normal. So the song's like contradicting itself, because it's just throwing together whatever sounded good in the moment. They're just like, well, home is good. People like that, so they just put it in. It's not random, but it doesn't make sense in a literal way. They don't care about that. Feels like as far as you and me, I've never had a choice. You feel like home. You're like the opposite of all of my mistakes. Tear down the biggest walls and put me in my place. So I noticed this in a different part of the video, but the text is out of sync. They switched to the next text too early when like he's still saying one of the words from the previous text. It makes it hard for me to like pause at the end of the text because they're like actually early switching, so there's like a negative time window that actually works. Which I think is interesting that it's sloppy. Like they want to get like 100 million views or whatever. This shit has a budget, so why is it so sloppy? I don't know. It just no one cares, or it's hard to find good help. There's not enough like confident people in the world to hire. Did like Taylor Swift hire all the good editors, and there's no one left for this? Like, it seems like it should be polished. If you're gonna put this in front of millions of people, you should make it good. Like it's efficient, If you spend money making it better, even if it's only a tiny bit better, and it has a tiny benefit for even only a fraction of the people who watch it. There's so many people watching that's still a lot of value. The bigger the audience gets, the more the work should be polished, because every tiny bit that it's improved benefits a huge number of people, so it's efficient. So on a related note, some of the lyrics are actually wrong. Like they have the words wrong. So I'll show you because I got these from a lyrics site. See, it's from this site. And then these are the ones actually on the song page. And it says back this right. And then here it says back that's right, which is different. And it also has the comma after back. So these lyrics I think are what he actually says, and they actually make sense. And these lyrics do not make sense and are not what he says. Also, they have hundreds here, and then it's not plural here. So it's another difference. So there's something weird that they like, this is like the official video page, and they don't even get their own lyrics right. So that's very sloppy. Also, I wanted to say, like, the song is pretty catchy. Like, the tune is nice. Like, just if you just listen to the sound of it and you don't pay attention to what the words are, I think it's well done. Like, it's not my genre, it's not my style, but I still think it's pretty good. I listened to it a bunch of times before making the video, like, just played it in the background a bunch, and, like, it's not annoying, it's kind of nice. Like, they put effort into making people like it, like, and then they take the nice music and they pair that with the evil lyrics. The music helps people have like a positive vibe about the song and like it and find it fun and whatever, and that makes them more receptive to what it says. And like this all washes over people, but they just get like the tiniest bit of impressions, and then also like a fraction of the audience like hears a bit more of it and catches particular parts. And then there's the chorus, which is the part they're really trying to rub in that people remember, which we haven't even gotten to yet. Like the beginning, a lot of people like they don't follow much of it, but if you listen to like 100 bad songs and you follow a little bit from some of them, then it adds up. And you get a sense of life, an impression of what the world's like. And it's not like they're reading a bunch of philosophy books to get a different impression and counter it. It's like, this is where they get ideas. I mean, not just this. There's also TV shows and chatting with their friends who watch TV shows and listen to songs like this. So it's not actually like an independent source of ideas. You know, when you chat with your friends and socialize, talk about what the world's like, they're also getting their ideas from the same shitty songs and shitty TV shows and so on. So it reinforces it. Like one of their friends like caught a few extra words and it helped inform one of their ideas about the world. And so they get bits of the song secondhand that way as well. And then because they've heard the song before, it seems more natural to them. It seems like something they've heard before, more familiar, makes sense. So it's an easier idea to accept from their friend when it's based on a song they've heard before, instead of just like this weird idea they've never heard anything about. Like just having the subtle impression that it's like a normal opinion, that it's part of the world, part of the culture, makes it a lot easier for people to consider an idea instead of just rejecting it out of hand. So like that kind of thing has an effect on people. Okay, so what does he actually say here? You're like the opposite of all of my mistakes. Tear down the biggest walls and put me in my place. So this is an example of the leaving out words. Like tear down the biggest walls. He doesn't say you tear down the biggest walls. That's what he means. You do it. You tear down the biggest walls. He just leaves out the you. There's a bunch of places where he just like leaves out one word, to make it a little like shorter and cuter and something poetic. Anyway, you're like the opposite of all my mistakes. It's very wordy and awkward. And it's like the song is at the same time very concise, polished. They don't have a lot of words. There's not a lot of space to say much in it, and this is what they put in. It's like first they have to make it really short, but then on top of that, each thing they say, they have to say it in like a casual way that's not like packing a bunch of information into 2 words. Like so it's both short and it's not information dense in some ways, which means it's sort of like extra short, because you could write something short but you're like using your words really efficiently to explain ideas. Like sometimes I'll like make a philosophy argument and fit it in a tweet, but this you don't fit that. You don't fit a philosophy argument in a tweet when you're writing you're like the opposite of all of my mistakes. That's like a long way to say you're good or you seem correct or something. They're just trying to make it like really simple. Like mistakes are bad, opposite of mistakes, that's good. And they don't want to be too direct, like you're an angel or you're pure. And they don't want to say like what she is, because they want her to be all things to all people. Like whoever you are, whatever it is you want in a girl, just imagine she's that. Whatever didn't work for you, she's the opposite of that. So they're trying to get the reader to fill in, or the listener to fill in the blanks. Reader, I'm like used to talking about books. But people listen to songs more than they read books. So this kind of thing's important. So right, they want the listener to decide for himself what is a mistake and what's good, and then whatever is good, you just associate that's what the song must be talking about. That way people can totally disagree about what makes a good girl and what's a mistake, and they can both like the song. Anyway, tearing down walls is our culture thinks that's good. Walls are bad. It's a very generic thing. Like it shouldn't be so generic, because like walls can be there for a reason. Walls can be a good thing. But it's this view that like being like open and getting past your hangups is sort of like the goal of life, or a major goal of life. The sentence doesn't even make sense. Tear down the biggest walls, and put me in my place. Like, I get the walls thing by itself, and I get the put me in my place by itself, but they don't go together well. Like, tearing down the walls is about helping the person be like open and honest. That shouldn't be like shaming them. Like, putting them in their place is like defeating their arrogance. I mean, arrogance could be a wall, but like a lot of the walls are going to be something else, like fear, say. So if you help tear down the fear and like take away their fear, that's not putting them in their place. It's like, I helped you get over your fear, bitch. It's not like that. That doesn't make sense. You're not shaming them, putting them in their place. So it's weird. It's incoherent. They're just throwing things together, because putting people in their place is a thing, and tearing down walls is a thing, and so they just say them. And this is like right after opposite of all my mistakes. It's very like random and scattered in a way, because they're just they're sort of skipping all the filler, and they're just like taking some like things that really resonate with people, that people that are like really really trendy and popular, and they're just throwing them together with nothing in between, no glue, and they don't fit together, and no one cares. I say that it already resonates with people because it's like a mix. Like, partly this is like trend following. Like, a lot of what it's saying has already been communicated by other things, but it's also partly trend setting. Like, some people are less familiar with all this stuff, and they hear this song and it has an effect on them. Like, it's helping spread it, because it's hard to spread ideas to like hundreds of millions of people. So it's partly following a trend. For some people, it's like reinforcing a trend, but then for some people, they're less exposed to these things, and it's more telling them what to think in the first place. Putting someone in their place is like mean, by the way, but I guess they think it's good because it's like anti-arrogance. It's also this is sexist. Like, so the song, like, he's pedestaling her. He thinks she's so great. Um so he's already her bitch, and then he wants to be put in his place by her. So he's like her bitch even more, which is not how dating works if you want to be effective. So they're definitely teaching guys to fail with girls, which is gross. Because like people are so stressed out about that, and they really want to succeed, and then you teach them to fail, and they get hurt. That hurts them, discourages them. It's mean, and like that's not innocent. Like the fucking people singing this are like popular and high status, and I doubt that they like being put in their place. Like, I think they have people sucking up to them all the time. So I think there's a lot of dishonesty here. Like, I think that they do well with girls because they're high status and rich and famous and whatever. So they don't try too hard. Um, they don't tell the girl, "Oh, I've never felt this before." They're just like, "Oh yeah, I have a lot of girls, but you're cool." So they don't treat her like she's so special, and that's why they do well with the girl. And then that's not at all what they're telling people to do. But like, in short, the way to be effective with girls is to act like you're high status. Act like she's not such a big deal to you. Don't be try hard. Like, have your own life that she can fit into, instead of having her like affecting you and telling you what to think and changing your life. Like, this is kind of the manic pixie dream girl fantasy, where it's like the guy doesn't know what he wants or what to do with his life. Then the girl comes along and like tells him. And that's not at all what girls actually want to be. Like, the man is supposed to lead and be strong. Like, the girl's the helpless one who needs to be rescued and has no idea what to do with her life. The guy's supposed to have a clue. But here, the fantasy being sold to males is the girl helps you tear down your walls. The girl puts you in your place. The girl provides energy and is your muse, and so on. So that's all a bunch of lies. So this is repeating the home thing. So again, it's kind of repetitive. Like, they don't have many words, but they're repeating them anyways. We have feel again, we have home again. Saying comfortable is one of the things that home was supposed to evoke before. The I know, like, is just trash filler words. The is trash filler words. So he feels comfortable with her, like home. Which is, it's like fucking incoherent, because you bring an energy I've never felt before, chemical that reaches through my core. That is not, I'm comfortable, you feel like home. Tearing down your biggest walls is not comfortable. Being put in your place is not comfortable. Like actually, this is just so incoherent. It's just, this is a good thing and this is a good thing, and they don't notice that they totally contradict. Anyway, okay, and then comfortable you cannot replicate. That's a lie. That's an exaggeration. That's false. It's, what they mean is hard to replicate. Like, if you said hard to replicate, it would be sort of reasonable. But you say cannot replicate, and it's just false. But even hard to replicate is pretty bullshit. I talked about this with the never felt before, you know? Even if you said, like, barely ever felt before, you'd probably be lying, you know? So if you change cannot replicate to, like, hard to replicate, like, come on, if she gets hit by a car tomorrow, you're going to find someone else to date. You'll eventually get married to someone else, and you'll feel, like, comfortable, and it'll feel like home and whatever. Because you'll live with her, and she'll be at your home all the time. Like, that's pretty common. You can probably find someone else. So saying you can't replicate it is such a lie. Like, people in general, they marry someone, they could have married someone else, and it would have been okay. The person they're marrying is not that special. There have been studies, like, that people's friendships in college are highly correlated to, like, how far away the other guy's dorm room is. It's like, if someone's, like, 3 doors away, you're more likely to be friends with them than if they're, like, 5 doors away. Because it's just, people are friends with whoever they're around, like their coworkers, their social circle, and whatever. Which, by the way, one of the sort of easier life hacks is to be careful about what social circle you're in, because, you know, rather than, like, being better at dealing with people and being more in control of your life, so that you're, like, not as controlled by the people you're around, and you're more critical of the people you're around, you know, that's all hard. But if you just make sure you're around good people in the first place, and if you focus on that, then you can just be as careless and influenced as the next guy by the people you're around, and it'll turn out okay because you're around better people. So that's like sort of a good life hack. If you're not going to improve very much, it's still something you can do that can make a big difference. Don't just be friends with whoever is closest. Like, put a little bit of effort specifically into changing who you're around and who it's easy to be friends with. Like, go a little out of your way to find, like, a better community to hang out with. Because then, you know, you go a little out of your way and you find a different friend group that's higher quality. And then that little bit out of your way, then now all your future hanging out with your friends, which you do a ton of, get you more value. Anyway, so the can't replicate. Like, of course you can find a different girl. It's more lying. It's more putting her on a pedestal, pretending she's super special, which is exactly how you lose her. Because it makes it sound like she's better than you. And if she's better than you, she can do better than you. And so why would she want you? Which is pretty mercenary, but people are mercenary. They just hide it and lie about it. Okay, so we've now hit the chorus. I guess I'll just play the whole chorus and then explain what it means. Oh, according to the lyrics, that's the pre-chorus. There's a pre-chorus, a chorus, and a post-chorus. Whatever. Anyways. Okay, so this is another, like, quick transition. Like, they're not really explaining what they're talking about. They're just talking about a different thing all of a sudden. Like, they just say so, and suddenly they're talking about something else. But anyways, the question is, how do you know? And they don't say, how do you know what? Like, what is this question about? The question is about, how do you know you love her? How do you know it's real love? This is a common, like, thing people ask. Because they tell you, well, you just feel it. But people are like, I'm not sure if I'm in love. You know, the just feel it and pay attention to your heart thing doesn't work for people. Like, it's partly that they're not sure if they feel it, because, like, the feelings are largely, people just say they feel it. Like, they know in that situation you say you feel that emotion. But, like, some of the emotions are just, like, made up myths, fantasies, or exaggerated heavily. So it can be hard for people to tell. Because they aren't actually guided by emotions. They have to have some idea, and then emotions follow. And not to the degree people pretend they do. People overemphasize emotions. But anyways, so the question is, how do you know if you really love her, if it's real love? And the other reason this is hard for people is, like, they felt love, they really did feel it, and then, like, you know, they broke up 2 weeks later. They felt love, they got divorced. So there's this problem that's well known, that not all love is, quote, true love. Sometimes you feel love and then it doesn't work out. So how do you know if it's, like, the love that's going to work out or the love that's not going to work out? So this song has an answer to that problem. It has an advancement, a new theory to go beyond feel it in your heart. See, that's what they say next. This is what I heard on the radio that got my attention, is that they had this new theory. I don't just feel it in my heart. So they're saying feeling it in your heart is not a reliable guide to love, which is like, people know that. They find the heart thing unsatisfactory. So this song has a new idea. You have to feel it in your bones. You know, feeling it in the heart's not good enough, but if you feel it in your bones, then it's real love. This is fucking stupid. Like, this is not intelligent. This is not thoughtful. It's just like, if the feeling is, like, extra strong, well, then it's real love. So you just, like, have to feel it harder. Or if the emotions are, like, strong enough, then it's definitely real. All your relationships that didn't work out, it's because you just didn't feel it strong enough. Like, she wasn't enough of a chemical. And by the way, like, hearts and bones don't feel. Minds do. But people are just so used to these metaphors. Like, they hear the metaphor over and over, and then they just take it for granted that that's a reasonable way to talk. So that's the kind of way the song influences people, is it makes them more comfortable with this metaphor, as opposed to some other metaphor, like, feel it in my elbow. That doesn't make sense to people. They're like, what? Why would it be in your elbow? But bones, that makes sense to people for whatever reason. It doesn't make more logical sense to say bones than elbow. Bones don't have nerves. And bones aren't even, like, an area of your body. Like, feel it in your heart makes, like, a little bit of sense, because people get, like, flutters, and they feel things in, like, sort of their stomach area sometimes. And, like, their breathing is around there, and also their heart can, like, beat faster, so they can actually feel that. Like, when they get, like, nervous or excited or whatever, they can get a faster heart rate. You can feel that in your heart area. That's possible. You can feel something there. It's not an emotion, but at least it's something. So there are, like, various sensations localized to the abdomenum. So it makes a little sense that people talk about, like, heart-related feelings. But then bones, like, you have bones throughout your body. You have a skull in your head. You've got bones in your abdomen. You have bones in your limbs. There's just bones everywhere. So feeling it in your bones makes, like, no sense. People take it as feeling it, like, sort of on the inside instead of the outside, like, not your skin. But if you said, like, I feel it in my blood, that wouldn't sound right to people. But it would make just as much sense as the bones. Like, it's this internal thing, and it's all over the place. But people are just like, well, blood can't feel. But bones don't feel either. You're an idiot. This is the one I noticed earlier, so I knew as soon as he said soul, it was like already going to be on the next lyric, so I paused early. Um, so he's talking about it. He doesn't say what it is, but it's like love. Yeah. I feel love in my bones, and I know when love cuts straight down through your chest into your soul. This is like mixed person. Like he says I and then he says you. I know when it cuts straight down through your chest into your soul. Why doesn't he say like I know when it cuts straight down through my chest into my soul? And because then he goes on to say that's how you know. But shouldn't it be and you know when it cuts straight? Like I feel it in my bones. I know. He's just switching from me to you, I to you. Like it's so incoherent. Anyway, so it cuts straight down through your chest into your soul. So it's going. This is like location based again. I was talking about that earlier with like the core reaches through your core. That's like a location. Bones are a location. Heart is a location. Chest is another location. And then soul is treated as a fucking location, even though it's not. Just like core was treated as both a location and not a location at the same time. Anyway, so love cuts. Which and cuts is it's not the right word. It doesn't cut like a knife, so it's another metaphor. So it sort of means travels, but love doesn't travel and down through your chest into your soul. Like it, if it went from like the top of your chest to the bottom of your chest, and then it went into your soul, like there's no like you couldn't draw a map of the human body so that this made any sense. They're just throwing things together. Like they don't care about logic and things making sense. And people just get used to like that's how you talk and that's how you think. He does it right here. That's how you know, that's how I know. I mean he's just both of us were the same, but he's just switching back and forth. I feel it in my bones. So anyway, he's telling you that you should feel it in your bones. That's how you know, that's how he knows. It worked for him, it'll work for you. So this is more of the same. So when it repeats stuff, I'm basically not going to be commenting. So many people just walk in and out of your life. Notice like the word of is missing. Out your life. Just out your life. I wonder if it's the same in these other lyrics. Yeah, it's missing the of here as well. So it's an example of how they're cutting out words to try to make it short, which contrasts with the parts that are like wordy unnecessarily. Anyway, people walk in and out of your life. Yeah, sure, like you meet some people in shorter ways. Happens. Saying they walk in and out of your life is wrong though. Like you meet them, that doesn't mean they're in your life. Like in a significant way. Like saying they're in your life sort of makes it sound like they're in your life like meaningfully importantly. Like is a cashier in your life because you bought something from them at their store? And they're not walking in and out of your life like you walked in and out of the store. So it's this kind of thing isn't thought through, and it's not clear who it applies to. And the thing about the person walking in and out makes it sound like it's out of your control. Like, you're not choosing your friends. You're not choosing who's in your life or out of it. Other people come in and then they leave. And it's just up to them, and you have no control over who's in your life. And that fits a lot of people's experience where they feel powerless. They feel not in control of their life. But it's reinforcing that. It's not saying you should learn how to take control of your life. You should learn how to be more consciously intentional about who you spend time interacting with. It just says like, well, it happens. That's how life is. People walk in, they walk out. You don't get to control it. They don't talk about how you're walking in and out of other people's lives, how you're doing that to them. They just view it as something other people do to you. So many people just walk in and out your life. I trade a couple hundred just to get some time. Okay, so the couple hundred is in the lyrics down here. It says couple hundreds, a couple hundreds. So it's different. So like the three lyrics don't match. I'd trade a couple hundred, and it has the back, comma, that's right. This one is couple hundreds, plural, and it's got time, comma, back this right, which is just like incoherent. And then here we have the time, comma, back this right, but 100 isn't plural. So the lyrics are different in three different places. Two of them are wrong. And both of the ones that are wrong are like the official. It's the video and the official YouTube page lyrics. So there's something screwy about that. I guess just people are so used to not caring about anything literal that they don't notice things like that and don't care or whatever. Anyway, I talked about that enough earlier. So he'd trade a couple hundred, it doesn't say a couple hundred what, it means a couple hundred people. So it's another omitted word. I'd trade a couple hundred people just to get some time back, comma, that's right. So he's actually saying he'd like give up his interactions with a couple hundred people to have more time. So you can have it with like the people that matter, you know, her. So that's misleading in some ways. Like a lot of his wasted time was not with a couple hundred people. He saw them like very briefly. So even if he got rid of them all, like he doesn't have a couple hundred people he spent a lot of time with to get rid of. And whenever people think of this, they're just thinking of getting rid of the time that was with the people who don't matter, but that doesn't add up to enough time. Or they're thinking about getting rid of ex-girlfriends, which is where you could actually get a lot of time back that might be okay with you because you don't value that anymore. But that's not a couple hundred people, that's a couple people. And that's not just anyone, that's the kind of person that the song is about. She's going to be your ex-girlfriend in 6 months, probably. And you're going to wish that you could get that time back so you could spend it with your new girlfriend. So, yeah, this is all pretty ridiculous. And you can't trade like this. And it's a stupid thing to think about in a way. Because it's sort of like I'd like a redo. I'd like a do-over. I'd like to reload my save game in the past. But it's not about how can I optimize going forward. How can I be more careful that I'm not wasting my time on this girl I'm with right now? Well, it's a little about that, because you have to feel it in your bones. If you only feel it in your heart, you might be wasting your time. But that is not a serious answer. That is a rationalization and excuse. It's handing people the idea that if their relationship didn't work out, they can blame not having enough bone feeling. Speaking of which, here we go. I saw this comment earlier. It makes my heart happy. I finally found a song to describe how I feel about the love of my life, heart. So she thinks she feels it in her bones. Apparently. She also omits words. She says it makes my heart happy. She leaves out that. I finally found a song to describe how I feel about the love of my life. She also leaves out the punctuation on the end. But she does capitalize stuff. What is this button? Oh, Heart by Gold Coast Music. I see. Gold Coast Music goes through and like hearts the comments that are positive, and then those go on top or something. There's like a bunch of these. Like this one only has 3 upvotes, and it's still high on the list. And she has finally found a song. Like, seriously, there's so many other songs that say similar shit. But if you just have a bunch of songs that are like slightly different and non-essentials, then they can just resonate with different people who have like arbitrary quirks about how they react to things. See, that's another reason that songs fool people. Is people are like, well, I didn't think that song was that impressive or that other one. Like they'll they'll think like 9 out of 10 songs are incorrect or not that deep or whatever. Maybe. You know, some people would say 9 out of 10 not that deep, and then they'll like one. And it's like, then the next guy says 9 out of 10 aren't deep, and they like one, but it's a different one. And so there's something for everyone. So you can just like a small fraction of the songs and still get the same ideas and think you're like selective and whatever, even because you're only liking 10% of the songs and you're rejecting most of the ideas and most of the songs. So you think you're like elite and critical and whatever. But all 10 songs had the same basic ideas in them, just dressed up slightly differently. So you're still accepting the same garbage. So the alibi thing is weird. He means sort of like, I've got no excuse, I've got no way out. I've got no way to like avoid you. I've got no way to not be with you. It's weird. Like he's looking for an alibi. Like he's looking for reasons for relationships to fail, and then he's like, but in this case, I just don't see one. Everything's so good because I'm comfortable, because you tear down my walls and put me in my place and fill me with energy to my core and chemicals. And I'm just repeating that because it's so contradictory. The alibi thing is like not a well-formed thought. Like none of this is well-formed thoughts. It's not organized in sentences. They just don't make a lot of sense. Like he doesn't explain himself. I got no alibi. You have to guess what he means. By the way, the for you and me thing is it's an echo, because he said like as for you and me earlier, because he didn't want to actually say like this is a romance. Like he hasn't actually said like love or romance the entire fucking song. Like he never actually admits what he's talking about. Because people think love and romance are cheesy, so they just leave those words out of the entire song now. And everyone knows what it means anyways. Because they're so ingrained with this stuff. It's just so everywhere that they're so used to it that they can tell exactly what it means, even though he never says it. Well, they can't tell exactly what it means. They can tell roughly what it means. Lots and lots of people think it means different things. It's not an exact song. But they can tell the ballpark, the gist of what it means. Which is, if you feel love in your bones, then great. That's great. The whole the asking thing was like, it's interesting framing, like if you're asking me, because they're trying to present this like advice like in a casual like friend setting. Like they're trying to put like a social framing around it as if you were actually having a conversation when you're not. So it's quite a repetitive song. Like they just sing this over and over, the bones thing. That's what they want you to take away like the most. Is feeling it in your heart's not enough, feel it in your bones. Before it was like, oh, how do you know? I wonder if they changed it from oh to boy, or if the like lyrics were wrong somewhere else. Oh, this lyric says boy here and oh before. This was the one that was actually accurate, from what I've seen. So they switched it from oh to boy for some reason. Oh wait. Well, it says said here and it's saying. Let's see. Well, the actual word he said was say. Not saying, not said, say. So they're both wrong. I wonder if this one's got it wrong as well. Saying. He totally... I didn't hear the ing. Yeah, I did not hear an ing. I think he just said say. So yeah, repetitive, repetitive. I don't know if there's anything different in the rest of the song. No, I think we got to the end because it just repeats. So when I was searching for this song, so I searched for like "Feel It in My Bones." I found there's a Tiesto song. So I'm gonna show you the lyrics for that just really briefly because it's also terrible. And it's not a coincidence that the other song about feeling things in bones is terrible too. So the basic gist of this song is I didn't see it coming. Here to stay, you're here to stay. What rushes into my heart and my skull, I can't control. I think about it, feel it in my bones. What rushes into my heart and my skull, I can't control. So it's basically you just have no control over your relationships and your love life. This person just rushed in. They didn't see it coming. It was a sucker punch. And now the person is here to stay, and they had no control over it. And now the person is in their heart and in their skull. Which again, it's like locations. Heart location, skull location, bones location. They do a lot of location stuff for metaphors. Like physical locations, which they then mix up with emotions and stuff. Because the emotions are too like vague and bullshit, so they try to like have something to say that sounds more tangible. Anyway, so yeah, that is this other song about feeling things in bones. I think like the violence is interesting, that blow by blow, sucker punch. Like they're just talking about relationships like you're being violently attacked and shit's getting into your skull. Like that sounds scary. And that's just a song that doesn't put people off love. That's fine. That's just a normal kind of thing to say. Feeling pressure. Yeah, just blow by blow. I take my heart out of my chest. I just don't need it anymore. Take my head out of the game. I just don't need it anymore. Like this is bad. That person's not happy. Something's going wrong. You've got dead aim. Yeah, that's more like violence-y stuff. So that's the other song in the short version. So you should try to do this. Try to analyze a song. Text is fine. You can just quote the lyrics and reply to the lyrics in text. It's easier in a lot of ways. You don't have to like figure out video recording. But you should practice this and try to get better at it and get better at seeing like what's wrong with things. Pick songs that you've actually like heard a bunch of times before. And then actually pay attention to what they actually mean, what you're sort of semi-absorbing when you don't really pay attention to it, but it becomes familiar to you. And see what it's actually like. Examine your life more, be more critical. And do it, practice a bunch, and you can get faster at it and better at it. You'll see more, you'll think those kind of thoughts more if you practice them. And the better you get at it, the more chance there is when you hear a new song that you're going to like notice something bad about it on your first hearing or on your second hearing. And that it's going to seem dumber to you. You're going to be less impressed by it. It's going to make a difference in how you perceive it. Which is good because these songs they're harmful. They have really bad ideas in them. You do not want to think about life this way. You don't want this to seem normal to you. You want your reaction to this to be, this is bad, this is unreasonable. Don't normalize it. Don't give it legitimacy. Just like I was talking about with the makeup, like this face, this picture. Don't normalize this. Don't think this is what girls look like. Don't be desperate for this kind of appearance. And you can practice that, and you should if it's relevant to your life. And for those who don't know, I have discussion forums. So if you want to share your analysis of some songs and get criticism, have people point out things you didn't see. That's something that's really helpful, is if you point out like everything you can see that's wrong with the song, and then someone else comes along and they say, well, here's like 3 more things wrong with it that you didn't see, and then you can be like, oh shit, there were like bad parts that even when I was trying to analyze it, I still didn't notice. That's like useful, and you can get better at that, so you're missing less in the future, because you can learn like patterns of ways songs are bad. Like, because usually the ways they're bad are common to like many songs. So if people point out some you were missing, then you can catch the same type of thing in the next song and not miss it the next time. So discussing this kind of stuff is good. You can also get feedback if some of the things you're criticizing about the song are actually good, or like, you made a mistake, someone could tell you. So that would be useful. You can read other people's analysis of songs or of anything else, and maybe that'll be useful. So if you want to be a better person and less fooled by your culture, take action. If you don't take action, you're not going to do very well in life. Like, the default is not to do very well. It's to be fooled by songs. Like, these songs impress millions of people. And of those millions of people, a lot of them think that they're not too impressed by the song and it's not affecting them too much. And it is. So unless you're actually taking action and you're standing out and doing something very different, then you're one of the dupes, one of the gullible